everyone. Welcome to the first ever episode of Origin Point, the show where each episode we pick a developer from Infinity Rising and dive into a variety of topics regarding video game development and the people that help design and create the game. I'm Scruffy, the QA manager for Infinity Rising, and I'm joined by David, our game director. David, thanks for being here, man. Appreciate you.
Yeah, nice beard you have going on there.
You like that? Over the holidays, I kind of just let it go.
I it's weird. I don't know how it like reached that length. Maybe I wasn't paying attention. It seems like it did it overnight. Like you just kind of glued on like an extra piece. I don't know. So
we've been in meetings and there've been people that hadn't seen me in a couple of weeks. You know, sometimes you go 2 or 3 weeks without a particular person being in one of your meetings. Yeah. And they walked in and they're like, oh my goodness, the community also the other day when I was in the watch party. Yeah, they were doing the goat memes. So, yeah, anyway, appreciate it. So, okay, you actually came up with the name for the show, Origin Point. You didn't realize you did, I guess.
Well, I was reminded that I did because this is something we wanted to do a long time ago. And you're probably going to ask, well, what does that mean? Origin Point. Well, it's incredibly boring, but it does kind of point at. Let's talk about what it is at a technical level. It's really the 0, 0, 0 point, as we call it, of the X, Y, and Z and your vector math. And 3D models have an origin point. Many functions that we might do in a game, or everything's always going to have its sort of origin point. So that's the dev side of things. But I think it also kind of speaks to like where the game's coming from, the origin point of the game. The passion of the team, the thought process behind things. So I think it kind of has a double meaning besides the boring technical side of things. So
I like the double entendres, if you will. Yes. So. All right. Well, for everybody who isn't familiar with Infinity Rising, real quick, tell everything about the game in 60 seconds. Ready, go.
Wow. We've always said it's like this is a really tough game to elevator pitch, but the main thing is it's we're not really. I kind of hate the word game. This is what I hate. I was talking to Jim, earlier about that, and it's like, is this a game? Or you'll have a small developer put up like a 1 hour experience, neat little thing. That's a game, but then you have something like GTA 6 or Starfield or these massive Star Citizen. Is that a game or is it a lifestyle? It's it's really both. But anyway, I'm not going to get hung up on that, my gripes of the word game. But Infinity Rising is a large open world MMO. And I don't want to just say it's an MMO because it's also more of a simulator. So and it's based in a post-apocalyptic universe. We go with the multiverse theory. So you're actually in a different version of the Earth where things have not went as well as they have here. And our Earth is sort of actually part of the lore as well. So it's kind of the interesting aspect is we're pulling players in from where they currently live on Earth into another Earth. And that's all part of it. And there's a great call to action because that Earth is still under an even greater threat now. And in this world, and this is the tough thing, this starts going on forever, you can do a lot of different things. So if you look at the average MMO, I would say you kind of have this mentality of specializations with players. Some people might call them classes. But they surround the idea of more combat. That's like their endpoint, right? I'm a wizard. I'm going to be a wizard. I'm going to be a paladin. I'm going to be a tank. All surrounds combat. We don't really do that. Ours kind of surrounds like vocations a little bit. Like if you want to be a woodworker, you want to be an explorer, you want to be a miner, you want to be somebody that goes into chemistry and works with that, somebody that works in quantum physics. So it's not that combat isn't a part of it. There is a big part that can be combat if you want to be part of it. But the focus is on a digital life, helping out the world in not just a combat way, even an economical way. So there's a lot of different directions players can go. We have very detailed avatar creators, so you can create yourself or create whoever you want to be. You can jetpack around. We have our blood sports, which is kind of like a gravity racer, high speed machines flying around. In a lot of ways, I like to kind of condense down the whole idea as being like it's almost like a mini charming, more widely appealing space simulator than something like Star Citizen. You get these big floating domes in the sky. It's a Jetsons kind of world where people are flying their jet cars from place to place, hauling things around. A lot of high technology is taking place. It's a little bit different than our Earth here. They have anti gravity technology that really, it's kind of the one thing. There's an element that they have access to that we call genesium, and it brought the ability to have anti gravity technology and quantum portals. It's the one thing that saved the world, but it was in a lot of ways the one thing that destroyed the world in the first place. So
I love when you get to talking about the lore. I got to tell you guys, if you have a chance to take a car ride from a hotel in Vegas to a Mexican restaurant with this guy, make sure and take up that opportunity, because you will get so much info on the lore. I was blown away by the way this guy's mind works, and it's so fantastic. I'm so excited for everybody to be along this journey and find this incredible lore that's been crafted. And it's exciting. And I don't know how far off we are from them finding some of those details out. But over the coming months, I would assume little by little, they're going to get some nuggets.
There's a lot of I feel like in a lot of ways the lore is like bigger than the game itself, at least right now, because we're still in development. There's been a lot of work that's been done into it. There's going to be, I think, a lot of like sort of twists and turns over time. That's something else to talk about. I think too is we're not looking at the player as coming into the world as like you're the hero, you're the chosen one. The prophecy wrote this about you. I always find that very strange that you have these big MMO worlds and everybody's special that goes in there, and everyone, it's like it's a consistent world, at least community wise. Everybody feels a part of it. They do their own things, but yet somehow they're all the hero. That's always been a bit strange to me. So
now you and I agree on most things. I mean, we've had a lot of talks back and forth about, future ideas, or obviously when we get ready for a game release, oftentimes you and I are kind of in there really, really hammering through the final, what we think is going to be the final release, making sure that it's, passes and everything. However, this is one thing I think we differ on a lot. I want to be the hero. Like, I want to feel special. That's one of the reasons I play games. And so my question to you would be, what do you say to the people like me that I still want to feel special? I still want to feel individualized. And like, if I don't get in there and do what I need to do, the planet's not going to get saved.
So yeah, throwing the hard questions here, but in reality,
they told me not to hold back. I was directed by our marketing director. He said, don't be afraid to ask the hard questions.
So you can still do that. Really. It's what we're kind of saying is we don't have the path laid out for you, right? There's a lot of different ways you can go. If you want to get in the world, you want to build up things on plots, you want to connect with people and form an entire pipeline and become a steel giant that's, bringing supplies to the front line, and you did that, you orchestrated that whole thing, you can do that. It's totally organic. You can go that direction on stuff. You could go in a total combat direction. You could totally focus on everything that needs to happen in combat, because we have this system. You have all the gear that you can put on. You can upgrade yourself, right? And you put all these components together, like your jetpack and your armor, and you assemble it in the right way, you could become something that's very, very formidable, very, very powerful. And let's go back and talk about like how major things happen in the world. And maybe why I'm coming from this certain angle is I think it's a little bit more like, if you look at Helldivers, that's probably a better comparison for viewers. You're not special like as a Helldiver, but you can be a part of this thing that's pushing against, like, we need to invade this planet, we need to rid them of the scum, the bug scum that's there, or the bots, or those other horrible ones that I hate fighting. But you're part of that. And sure, if you're more powerful and impressive, you're going to be up there in a leaderboard as somebody that's pushing against the rifts the most. So that's the
So
way
it's
we're
more
looking at it.
community oriented is what you're
Right.
saying. And yeah,
Yeah.
you're part of something bigger.
Yes.
Okay. I like
Yeah.
that. I like that.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, we've talked a lot again behind the scenes about various, I'll say problems in gaming, and we don't want to get too negative here. We don't want to bash a whole bunch of other games and stuff like that, but talk about some of the things that you haven't talked about before on other shows. Maybe, some of the things, how other games tackle them, things that are missing from other games, and stuff like that, and how we're going to try and tackle those issues.
I think, if you look at gaming as a whole, like the industry, it's been very weird for like the past couple of years. It seems like a lot of gamers are pretty disgruntled. You have a lot of that going on. There's so many directions that I could go with this one. You have everything about people complaining about, poor delivery on games, too long of timelines, to why can I have a sexy female character anymore? Why does she have to look so homely? You have that whole thing going on.
Where's my Lara Croft?
Right. Everybody wants Lara Croft to come back. You go back and look in the day and she's like, essentially has pixelated parts up here that are very, very low poly. But I think the game industry went in a direction that was kind of anti-consumer in a way. And it was, I think there were directors, there were people that were, I think they were more about pushing an agenda when they were coming into the game, rather than telling the own game story, just like kind of on its own, letting it be its own thing. They felt the need to inject the personal opinions on things. And I think, anybody listening to this, you probably feel that in a lot of ways. You don't want to come home after a long shift to go and play your favorite game to have somebody's agenda like pushed down your throat or something like that. So,
and I think that's kind of across all media. I think we've seen a shift over the past, 5-10 years of this being everybody's cause, and everybody wants to input their beliefs and their thoughts into their product. And I understand that, but I'm with you. I don't like agendas in games. Like, leave it open, allow me to do everything, and I'll choose my agenda. The guy next to me can choose their agenda. And as long as we all have the power to do that, then we'll all be happy. You're never going to make everybody happy. That's the other thing.
Real life is nobody's, you're never going to have a utopia where everybody totally gets along. And I think that's the beauty of it. But players can go any direction. They can create their avatar however they want. They want to be you want to be a bearded dude running around in a dress. You've done that a few times in the game just for some laughs. So I have.
Absolutely. And we've got people that make very, I'll just say, not flattering looking avatars. Snoo. Yeah. We all went to the exact same one.
Snoo at all, but I
beauty's
feel
in the eye of the beholder.
Exactly. I think some people are totally all about that. So the whole warped face and everything. So
speaking of that, what are your takes on like sex and drugs and bodily functions, and like, let's get into the gnarly stuff that,
this is the good stuff, really.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. This is stuff people want to know about. How are we going to tackle all of that?
The shock factor. Sex, I don't know. Well, I don't see that as something being in the game. Now, I do see, because we're so community focused and being kind of a social platform at the same time, actually allowing players to like set relationships and sort of date and having some perks because of that. That might not mean that they get a discount on their taxes because they're married game or something like that. It may not mean that they could also have a baby. That's out there in the murky. Hey, maybe that could happen. I don't know, because a lot of
games do have breeding mechanics, and I know they'll do them for pets and things like that, but and games like The Sims and things have that for people. But yeah, I wasn't sure about like say adult areas, if it could be verified, if age could be verified or not. We've got things like custom domes. How much flexibility will people have to when they create their own stuff? Just kind of what level, or is it going to be, do we think we want to make it totally wide open? Do we want to keep it locked down and this and that? What are your, just personal thoughts on that?
I talked about this before as something I call the Star Wars line. Right. And that's probably the best place to be for things. You could let people branch off from there. But Star Wars has like some very sexy stuff that's in there. It's got some blood. It's got some arms being chopped off and some blood, but nothing ever goes too far, I think, in Star Wars. And, look at Princess Leia.
I was going to say, you're bringing back memories of Leia in the slave suit.
Nobody can ever forget about that. And it was a very sexy outfit. So goodness.
I went back and watched it just to look at that because I'd seen some Friends episode or something where Jennifer Aniston dresses up as Leia. And I wanted to go back to the original. It's interesting too, because I saw Star Wars when I was so young and I was not thinking about the opposite sex in that way at all. But I went back and watched it. I'm like, dude, Carrie Fisher was freaking hot.
Oh, I think it hit me when I was younger. I was like, I like watching this.
Yeah. This made me feel funny.
All funny things. Yeah. So I think we can have a little bit of everything as long as it doesn't go necessarily too far and become like too grotesque. As far as, two players going to date each other and then, other games have stuff like this, right? Like Sims is probably like a big one. You can have little families, they marry and have babies, but we're talking about a more visceral, you're in a simulator, you're your own avatar, you have full control, walking up to, a person that you spent time with. How does that actually happen? You're like, all right, do you want to do this? How does that actually work in game? How do we have a mechanic for that? I don't know. That's all fun stuff. There's some other things I think about in games sometimes where, like, why is it okay for me to chop off somebody's head and blood goes everywhere or spills somebody's guts, but yet there's no toilets or bathrooms? So we eat all this food in game, but yet where does it all go? Where does all the food go? So, like some people's asked that question, like, where are all the children in games? You don't see children in games that much. And we kind of know why, but, why?
It's because you don't work with pets or children. Isn't that a rule in Hollywood or something? No. Anyway, go ahead.
I don't know, but if you have a needs system and you're eating food and you're gaining stamina, can't we go further? Can we think about nutrition and calories a bit? We've seen stuff happen in games where you could gain weight. We don't want things to be too like intensive and bothering for the player, but could you have a bowel mechanic where, I don't know, it's not too bothersome, but maybe you're out there with your buddy and Solus and, he held his bathroom for a long time and you guys are in the woods, looking for something and a grizzly bear just comes out of nowhere. Your buddy craps his pants in front of everyone.
Wow. I thought you were going to say, okay, you're on the road in the forest and you're searching for something and your buddy has to pull over off to the side to relieve himself, but you went full bear on it. I love it.
Comes out, and because they don't have the skill to deal with fear situations, just there he goes.
Gotta up that fear skill.
Yeah.
Kids, that's day one.
Can you imagine how hilarious that would be just for streamer content?
Well, we talked about battle too, right? You going out and going on the battlefield. And let's face it, that's probably one of the scariest things in life, right?
Yeah.
Is being in battle. And I could totally see somebody, you only have a certain amount of time in the day to get your stuff done. And you didn't take your pre-battle dump and, shit happens.
That's exactly it. I mean, you're looking at your buddy's like needs meter and you notice that he's been packing it in there for a few days and you walk up next to him and fire off your meat grinder and, just.
Wouldn't that be great if before a battle, there's just like a line of porta potties next to the battlefield, and you just see everybody going over there first before the battle starts, getting prepped.
I think it was, we had this joke in Vegas, like, because our backpacks or the pack slot on the player is kind of like a wild card. You can have all kinds of things. You can have a drone that pops out and you can use it for surveying. You can use it for storing stuff. You can have jetpacks. Why not just have a potty pack? What if your buddy's just got to go and battle and he just like hops on the back and you're running around battling and he's doing his business? What can't we have a potty pack?
We talked about that specifically. And I actually wanted to take it a step further, right? Now we've got a jetpack that's also a backpack.
Yeah.
I want a jetpack that's also a toilet. Oh. Because I want to be flying around shooting, and in midair, my buddy comes and lands on my toilet with his jetpack. Yeah, a bombing run. Exactly. Like, we could get crazy with this.
Something
absolutely.
Like you could certainly humiliate your enemy that way. Imagine just seeing like 10 people take off their buddy on jetpacks, and then it just
the Valkyries plays in the background. Yeah.
Then that happens and their needs go down, like they lose stamina because of the smell. I don't know.
And that's the other thing. Again, would you get some sort of debuff if you're full to the brim, right? If you got turtle heads poking out.
I would think so.
Yeah, I think that would have to.
You might have your animations change where you're standing there and it's like, oh, and you hear your buddy's stomach and it's like, hey man, do we need to get you to a bathroom? Like, we're about to go off across this mountain range. It sounds like we need to head back to town or you're going to have an accident. So just, I think real life in a way is kind of a beautiful thing. It's very nuanced. There's a lot of humor. Everybody poops every day, that kind of thing. Everything goes on, but games always sometimes like to just kind of focus on this just sometimes very serious kind of world, and it's not like real life at all. You can have all this ridiculousness at the same time as having a legit world that you're in and a legit civilization and lore that's in a game, because that's life. There is sex, there is pooping, there is, somebody in a wheelchair falls down the stairs, it's you know what I'm saying? These are all part of life. I know it's like a horrible thing to say, but
it's always funny when you see somebody else fall. I agree.
I don't know what it is.
If it's not you, it's funny.
It's hilarious. So
and that brings up another good point. You talk about humor, and there's a lot of games, like you said, that have zero humor. Yeah. And then there's some games that are just ridiculous, laughable. Mm-hmm. I'm assuming you kind of fall somewhere in the middle.
I've always kind of liked, it's like, I feel like Grand Theft Auto is a good example, right? It's actually a fairly serious game, but it never takes itself seriously at the same time. And I think there's always that line that we can kind of run with that, because we're going with a simulator. It's real life. You could totally have something very serious and heart-wrenching happen and struggle and all of these things, and then your buddy can just crap his pants next to you. It's because you can have that humor. We have some funny things that are over the the PA that you hear in game. You can hear.
No.
I know Jeff thinks it's really funny when he hears Nelson, as he's called. He's the security chief Nelson. You can hear him yelling at people over the thing, stop jumping around on stuff, that kind of, there's all these like little extra things that start coming out in the game. And I think there's just going to be a lot more of those in the future. Look at all of our signs. Like you go to like Burrito Boss and you look at, even the names of things. It's just always a little bit extra just to kind of keep you entertained. And I think we'll always do that.
I agree.
Yeah.
How about drugs? There's been a lot of popularity from games that are based solely on drugs. Schedule 1 comes to mind. They've been very big, and I'm just curious. I know we've had community people go, "Hey, are we going to be able to grow weed?" or all of that kind of stuff. You and I have talked about having some shady guy in the alley, down in Toledo City. That's hey man.
Well, just at more of a PG level, we're we're working some of the icons where I think there's like several hundred items. They're going to be going into like the crafting system and inventory. And we do have like rum and tobacco and vodka and all these kinds of things. So there is a thought about like having a distillery in game and making your own alcohol and those things actually having effects. There's also some thoughts on growing tobacco and having your own cigar shop, things like that, where just a lot of games don't go, but it's in real life, it's a serious thing. It's what people do. It's an economical thing. We're definitely going to have that. Now there is an idea about illicit substances as well. I don't know if it's necessarily going to be like cocaine that's in the game. And wow, you're making cocaine. We're going to have to shut you down and you're going to prison. So
maybe it's spice or something like that. You know, like some
think of like skooma from
created.
Skyrim.
Yeah, maybe they're out there snorting quantasite. Yeah. I don't know.
There will definitely be technologies, substances that may not necessarily even be things you would ingest, right? That are considered illegal in this floating world in the sky, because it's a threat. It's things that mess with quantum nature, things that give people too much power, that kind of stuff. We're certainly going to have that. There's definitely going to be, there's a build right now that's going out that has some of the more extended criminal justice stuff going on, where you can set bounties like, oh, you did damage to people, you get a bounty. There's different, there's lawless areas. There's, regular PvP areas where you're going to go to prison if you do something wrong. So that's coming out. There's going to be a path for lawlessness in the game, and for people to live on the wild side, live on the bad side of things. Certainly, if that's something they want to do, just expect life to be a little harder. So
super exciting, by the way, because I saw it cooking earlier today and I'm like, ooh, as soon as we get done with this, I'm gonna be able to hop in and see some of that really, really cool stuff. So yeah, awesome. You mentioned the new icons and stuff you're working on. I believe that was for the recipe system. And I did get a chance to get a glimpse of that just the other day, and it was super exciting. Yeah. If I can get approval, maybe we'll throw up a graphic and blur some of them out and just, I don't know, maybe show a few. We'll see. Yeah. But I noticed there were a lot of like rocks and minerals. And I'm told that this guy is a little bit of a geology buff. So can you talk a little bit about
geology buff? But
no,
around, I like geology and I like collecting. I like old stuff. You'll find different things like around my house. You'll find a lot of like large geodes and types of, like citrine, amethyst, and all these other things that I'll collect over time and just kind of my travels. I've also got like some dinosaur bones, some what some people call Chunkosaurus, because you don't know what dinosaur it came from. I do have what is this specific? I have like a piece of a leg bone from a very specific dinosaur, which Triceratops. So I have a piece of a leg bone from a Triceratops. So
that's super cool.
Yeah. So I don't know why I feel it's very nice to hold something and look at it and think this thing lived so long ago. It was almost like an entirely different age. I love that kind of stuff. But yes, in game, you will also see things like that, like dinosaur fossils that you can find. Amethyst, you go into, let's say you go into a mine and you go beating on some rocks, and you're not there just to get some ore. You got the pay dirt that comes out, and you scoop that up and take it with you. You take it to the processor, and of course you get your, you go from having, let's say it's gold that you're looking for. You go from having a very rough gold ore, a lot of other things mixed in, to getting something a little bit more purified, processed gold ore, as we would call it. But you get a lot of other things that came out of there too. You might get some iron that's in there. You might get some amethyst that's in there. You might get things that you can make jewelry with out of those. So it's kind of like this, I always look at it as kind of like this little bit of an exciting lottery. You ever went to those like touristy areas and they have the little sifting stations, and kids love to do that? They have this big block of sand, you scoop it and you do the panning, and they might get jewels and different rocks in there. People love that stuff.
Heck, dude, I went on a tour in Alaska where we actually went to the river and started panning for gold.
Oh,
And you got to keep
cool.
whatever you had. And they put it in this little jar. And I've got this little jar of with a whole bunch of gold flecks. And I'm like, dude, I went out and actually mined gold, real gold in the real world. It's not much, but yeah, no, that stuff's super cool to me.
Yeah, so you'll see lots of different minerals, rock type stuff. You'll see almost the entire. Somebody was working on that recently. The periodic table of elements. So the entire thing. So icons for each like raw thing out of there. So there'll be a lot of things for people's like interests, like in the game. You know, things that you're interested in real life, you'll probably see them in the game itself. So.
Well, what else besides those little icons are you working on right now?
Well, right now we're trying to get. Well, we got many things in parallel. I think I covered a lot of that.
No, I mean you.
Rice. Oh, personally. Me specifically.
Yeah, well, you.
Besides talking to a lot of people all day and trying to keep things straight, I'm trying to work on the back end side of the Esperanza stuff to speed up the finishing of it. So we're moving to nanite tessellation on some things. There's also been some hangups because our worlds are handcrafted. We have very efficient like workbox system for that, and we use the best technology we can use in Unreal to make those happen, where we can get a large 8x8 kilometer map done like in a couple months with a team. But I want to speed that up even more. One of the biggest pain points is like building like mountain ranges, stuff like that. Because sometimes they require just thousands of pieces to make those things actually detailed. And then it's not just about putting things. You have to have a mountain that looks like a mountain at the same time. Rocks and mountains may look like very random things, but there's a very specific order. There's a geological history to these things. So we're looking more now at generating things procedurally, like mountains outside of the game, bringing them in more cut up into a lot of different pieces and slices, and using actual tessellation and some other procedural stuff to actually give that detail. So you go from a mountain range taking like 3 weeks, like 4 weeks, to being like 3 or 4 days. So
that's great.
It's because we got 12 zones to do total. Trying to speed things up. I do a lot of the technical back end side of even being a director and everything else I have to do. I'm helping people creating tools and systems that make it easier for them to develop. I mean, I've almost got sometimes I would say just from the environment side, I feel like sometimes it's gotten so efficient with that we could just bring in some guy off the street and I could just sit him down and give him a tutorial and he'd be like building an environment for the actual game in a proper way that's performant. But we like to make very efficient systems because we are a small team and we have to do a lot with a little. So and
yeah, you guys don't want to see this guy's time card. Trust me.
No. I've often thought about a way I can build some sort of large jet engines to sort of slow the turning of the earth so I can have more time in the day.
See, I'm just focusing on cloning myself. Yeah, I figure if I could have two or three at least 2 or 3 versions of myself, I'd be all right.
That would be great.
No?
I could even hang out with myself. So,
hey, maybe something for the game. Maybe there's a feature where we can clone ourselves and one can be off farming and one can be off starting a relationship with.
That plays right into what we're working on with the avatar genetic sets. So, yeah, I mean, you guys, community out there, and I talked about this a little bit in the Cafe Rise, but, having a whole family of avatars, like with different names, and you can eventually have one of those as a follower to go off and help and do things in the world. So it's almost like you're not just you're like a family lineage kind of thing that's going on. So
can we have them be like an AI robot? By the way, I did watch that movie Companion that you told me about, and I loved it.
Good. Yeah.
I loved it. Absolutely loved it.
Very good.
Yes.
I love all the AI movies. Her is probably my favorite one. If you haven't seen her.
I've seen her, and her was okay. It was fine.
Oh, another one like what is it? X-Men.
That's my favorite. That is my favorite of all time. Period.
That's the best. That is so
the best ever
done. Yeah, it's really really good, and all of this is jumping around the same thought of human relationship with artificial intelligence, which I think is, that's why I talked about, you have these extra genetic sets of avatars that you can create and have them be a follower, but, you know, also working on having an LLM function with that, let it learn from what you're doing in game. And then, holy cow, you're going around the world and experiencing the game, doing things. And it's like you have a friend or a partner that's like a real person that's actually there. So it's, if you're one of those gamers out there that has no friends, we're gonna have you covered in the future. Is as bad as it sounds. I do think.
Why are you looking at me when you say that, huh? No.
I have no choice right now. Yeah, it's humanity is we're in the midst of the greatest technological revolution the world has ever seen, and it's going to shatter the foundations of relationships and it just the way we do. I honestly think even by the time, let's say I'm like 70 or 80 years old, I think normal work is a thing of the past. At that point, you don't have your 9 to 5 job. You don't have things like that. I think you have hybrid relationships. Even I think you have AI that are actually in relationships with humans. And I think we get to a point where the robots, there's protests in the street that robots are people too. Yeah, we're living in such a wild time, and I'm here for it. I'm a little scared sometimes, but it's and what's it going to do for gaming, right? So what happens once somebody can just press a button and say, "Make me a game like this today"? It's by the way, that's probably a lot further off than people thinks it is.
I think a lot of this stuff is maybe I don't know. I personally
think the robots and relationships is probably a little bit closer than people don't realize all the pieces that are completely separate off in the different programs
right now, and how complete
30 to 50 programs that have all these people with different disciplines working on those that very specifically have to be manually moved around, talk to the other people of the disciplines, and that has to go in and be tested and all work together. It is more complicated than film or anything else. Anybody that doesn't know anything about software development or know anything about game development specifically, it is immensely more complicated and difficult than many other things. And I'm not just saying that because I'm in it. It is a very difficult thing, and that's why game developers end up working very, very high hours. It's not a good field for like, hey, I just want to work 9 to 5 and I'm done with the day. It's just not that way. We've had some crazy hour months. I know I've definitely pulled 350 hours, 380, probably almost 400 some months just trying to solve problems with the team. They have as well, and that's makes me almost want to go off into I don't know if it's an uncomfortable subject, but just gamers and mentality nowadays and how they're just like, oh, make the game cheaper, why are you charging $60? It's like, games are expensive. It costs a lot of money to pay people. It costs a lot of money for different licenses, and I mean, we've all got to have these beastly computers. I mean, everything about it is incredibly expensive. When I was a kid, it was like $40 for a new game. Why is it $60 now? It hasn't even kept up with inflation.
I got news. When I was a kid, it was $20. And I think that we'll see GTA maybe come out around the $100 mark. That'd be my guess.
Yeah.
We'll see.
I think it should be for a game of that scale. And I also think there's a psychology difference with this kind of stuff. If you put your blood, sweat, and tears and heart into a game, that dev team spends their time on it, and you try to come out and undercut the industry and put it out for $20. I think you're taking a gamble there. They could just sing your praises, or they could just complain because it's like it's not good enough, because to them it's only a $20 game. Like you're literally putting the value of the game on there. There's a lot of weird things in psychology like this, to where you could have a game, let's say it's the same game, you released it for $20 and a bunch of people complain and it gets mediocre reviews. And then you could release the same game for $100, but because people paid $100 for it, it makes them value the game more. It makes them look into the game more, see everything that the devs did, and care about it more. I think Star Citizen has found out something when it comes to this. It's very, very strange. I'm not saying we're going to go out there and put some ridiculous price on the game, but I think human psychology and how pricing affects things and how value is perceived in the mind is a very, very interesting subject.
I think you're right. I think a lot of people do put that value, like you said, based on the price. I'm almost the opposite, though. Again, maybe I'm the exception, not the rule. But if I sit there and I'm like, man, if I plop down $100 for this game, it better be fantastic.
You wouldn't know it, though. I mean, you would automatically like it better. You just wouldn't know it. So you're thinking that you would think a certain way. But I
already do that with my games. Look, I am a very frugal gamer when it comes to buying games. Okay, wait. I've got a system. Okay, I have so much of a backlog that I haven't been able to get to because of work and various, life things and all that. And so what I do is every so often I go in there and I find games that I've been wanting to play and wait until I look for them to be on sale. I can get them 50, 60, sometimes 80% off. And I'm able to buy 2 or 3 times the amount of games for the same amount of money. And so that's just the way my brain works. Now, will I go out and buy a $70 game occasionally? If I'm really excited and hot about it, I will. I've done it. But again, if that is trash, I get a little more upset than the one that I paid $15 for if it's trash. Now, again, inherently in the back of my mind, I may end up just liking it a little better because I paid a little more. So I'll never know.
I think it's kind of like, imagine this. Imagine like a Ferrari, right? If you bought a Ferrari and you paid $300,000 for that Ferrari.
Ooh, I like this
you would
scenario.
Take very good care of that Ferrari.
True.
Right? Very good. You would baby it. You probably spend a lot of time with it. Probably just spend time in the garage, just kind of sitting there, touching the leather.
I probably can't tell you all the things I would do to it. That's a different show.
We're not going to have those game mechanics. But let's say,
look at the tailpipe on that car.
Let's switch the scenario and let's say we got you a near broken down Prius from like 2010, and you got it for $500.
Dude, are you looking in my garage right now? Like literally, I have a 2011 Prius that doesn't run at the moment. I'm not kidding. I mean, I have another car
weird.
have another car that works, but
there's some sort
I have
of
that
mental connection. I just know what kind of car you have. I was only off a little bit on the year.
He's like, this guy with the giant goatee and the little handlebar start. This guy drives a Prius.
For $500, right? How much are you going to care about that car? And I guess
none.
You don't really care about that car.
I don't.
It's right there. Now, let's say we're gonna give you that $300,000 Ferrari for $500. Are you going to care about it as much as if you spent $300,000 on that?
Absolutely.
No.
Especially if everybody else had to pay $300,000 for it. I would. I'm sorry, I would.
I think if that was something that was normal and you could keep doing this and buying supercars for $500, I think you would probably take them to the grocery store, run them through the mud. You just wouldn't care as much.
Well, that's true. Yeah. If it was a continuous thing, if it was a one-time thing, then no. But you're right. If supercars from now till the end of time were $500, I would go somewhere. I'd park it. If I got a ticket, I'd probably be like, I'm just going to go buy a new one.
I've actually heard of celebrities that did that. I think was it T.I. or something? He like ran out of gas in his Escalade and he just walked to a dealership and bought another one and just like left it there. It's like, I feel like that mentality is what gamers have actually gained over time. That games are a dime a dozen. And, we throw them away easily. And it also starts to do something to our brain where we're like, I played this game, but I didn't really look into it that much. It's cool, but I want to go buy another one. You just find another one on sale and you never look into the depth or focus that the devs actually put in the games. When I was a kid and I finally got that $40 game that I've been waiting 4 months or asking my mom for, and I played it, a lot of them were, in retrospect, not great. But you know what? I loved it. I looked into everything that the devs did. I looked at every single detail. I really thought about the story.
Every side quest,
it really took effort. When you put effort into something or you pay more money for it, and there is substance there, it's going to be more appealing to you than maybe it would be if it was cheaper. So
very insightful. I appreciate that, man. This has been fantastic. I'm so glad we had you on as the first ever guest, because we just flow and you're so easygoing. You're so knowledgeable and all that.
Conversation.
So I know your time is precious, and I want to thank you for taking time out of your extremely busy schedule to be here with us. Any parting words that you want to say for the masses, whether they know about the game or not, or just anything you want to throw out there?
No, I would say the next 3 to 6 months is an extremely important time for us. You're going to see a lot of things come together. There's going to be a lot of value added to the game, and we're kind of coming up to a more mainstream launch point, at least for a alpha state. But I'm super excited about all the things that start getting tied together. And I know there's some in the community that are like, I go in, I don't feel like there's a lot to do right now. That's because a lot of these core systems are coming together. Once those things are filled out more from a content standpoint, we make connections between those, you're going to be like, oh my goodness, there's a lot to do here. I think in the next couple months, there's going to be a lot of things that come out that people are going to be spending daily time in the game, like logging in every day to kind of grind away and do things. So that's all I want to say. I'm just really excited for about the next 6 months.
That makes me very happy. Yeah. That's my jam right there. Yeah. By the way, is leveling up, is some processes, progression processes that you're grinding for. You got to go save up a whole bunch of money, and then you're able to get to that one thing, and it makes you more powerful, and you can do things, you do things you couldn't do before. Maybe it unlocks something. Maybe it makes you more powerful, but that is so satisfying to me in games. And that's what really just sucks me in. That and then amazing storytelling. So
a lot of that's going to be easier to do. A lot of people don't realize when they play a game, 80% of the work sometimes is not in the things they're in the things that's under the hood. It's not that mountain that you see. It's the procedural process and pipeline that it took to develop to get you a mountain that's in front of your face. And the same thing goes for characters and game mechanics and all of these kinds of things. It's just it's a big game. We've been on it for a while, but we're about to see the fruits of our labor, I think, when all these things start coming together. So.
Exciting times. Again, I want to thank David for joining us. And for everyone else, we are currently in closed access. The game is Infinity Rising. But if you're interested in checking it out, you can go to our website. It's infinityrising.com. Fill out the short form. You'll be added to the list. And that way, you'll be considered the next time we bring in a new group of players. Yes. Don't forget to help us out. Feed that YouTube algo, people. Like, subscribe, and all of that. Until the next time, game on, everybody.